my summer reading plans, aka my third quarter TBR. Now, even though I do put TBR on the thumbnail, in many ways this is an MBR because some of these I'm very certain I'll read, some of these I'm just kind of guessing. I don't like to schedule 100% everything that I read. I like to have a little bit of flexibility each month. So I will break down these 20 books into 10 books that are definites. I'd say 99% sure I'll read them. 5 books that are probablys, maybe 75% sure I'll read them. And then 5 absolute maybes, 20%, 50%, I have no idea percentage. The first quarter of the year, I read 18 of the books that I put on this video. The second quarter of the year, I read 15. So let's see how I do with this summer. So let's start with the 10 books that I'm pretty definite that I'm going to be reading in the next few months. Let's start with a couple of buddy reads that are going to happen. The first is Deadbeat by Jim Butcher. I was going to kind of pause my reading of the Dresden Files, and then when I mentioned that on a video, Philip Chase chimed in and said, hey, I'm reading Deadbeat in July, and I'm going to talk with Ben over Books with Genghis Khan. Maybe you can join us. So consider me resuming the Dresden Files. I've really enjoyed these this year, and I am enjoying just getting back into the heart of the series right away. So I'm looking forward to reading Deadbeat with them in July. Second buddy read on this list is King Rat by James Clavell. This is the 4th one when you're thinking of In-World Order of the Asian Saga, but it is Clavell's first book. So if you haven't read any of these, you could jump in. Even if you haven't read any of the others, you could jump in and read King Rat, since this was his first book. I've been buddy reading this series periodically with Kyle from Read by Kyle, as well as Alan from the Library of Alexandria, and I'm looking forward to reading this one with them again. We're doing this one in August. And hopefully we like this one. We didn't really feel real high on Gaijin, so we didn't do a discussion about that one. But hopefully this is kind of a regaining of form for Clavell, at least in this series. He wrote it first, so I don't know how that works. But I am looking forward to reading this one, and I think Tori from Tori Talks is going to join us on that as well. So hopefully she will, and hopefully some of you will as well. This is not one of the big chunkers at Clavell. This is only about 400, 500 pages, so might be a good entry point for his works. So the third book that's on this list, this is a reread for me. I am embarking upon rereading about half of Dennis Lehane's works because I want to do a big summation video of all of his works. And some of them it's just been a while. So I've been wanting to reread Mystic River, and then lo and behold, in July on Alan's Discord, they're doing a read-along of Mystic River. So it just seemed perfect to me to go ahead and jump in with that. So I will be rereading this. When I finished Small Mercies by Lehane, and I thought over what I thought about each of Lehane's works, Mystic River was my number 1, so we'll see if that still holds form. So the next 2 books on this list are books that you chose. I put a couple polls up on the community tab in my channel, and the first one was to pick a chunky book, and you picked Fire and Blood by George R.R. Martin. I'm super excited to read this. I've been wanting to reread Martin. I haven't read any Martin since I started the channel, so it's been a while. And I've had this on the shelf for over a year, so I'm super excited to read Fire and Blood. I'll likely be reading that one in August. The second poll that I put up on the channel was to balance the chunker. I picked literally the 4 shortest books that I had on my TBR, and in a landslide victory, Outer Dark by Cormac McCarthy was the overwhelming choice. Now, McCarthy's been hit or miss for me. I absolutely adore The Road. I didn't like the Pretty Horses books. I actually DNF'd the second one. So we'll see how this one works for me. I had a friend that told me that he think I'd like it, although Barron chimed in on the poll and said this is very, very dark. So I have my expectations, I think, in the right place with this one. Another one that's going to be a definite for me, I'll be reading this probably the first book of July. That is The Crimes of Rooker Flynn by A.R. Witham. Truth be told, I was an alpha reader for this book, and I'm curious to see the final product. But look out for these books because I read the whole series. He's putting them all out this year. It is a trilogy, and it's some fantastic storytelling from a self-published author who's got a tremendous amount of skill, and I really enjoyed being an alpha reader for this series. But even beyond that, these are great books. So I look forward to reading the final product of The Crimes of Rooker Flynn by A.R. Witham. Up next is one that was a definite on my last TBR, but I got behind for certain reasons if you saw my wrap-ups. But Emperor of Thorns is going to be the last book of the Broken Empire trilogy that I want to read. I'll probably be reading this, I don't know, August as well, maybe September, but I do want to finish this series. I squeezed in King of Thorns at the end of June, so I almost got all three of those read in the second quarter of the year, but I do want to conclude the series. So Emperor of Thorns is in the definite category here. Also, another book series that I've been reading is the Robert Jordan Conan novels, and the next one is called Conan the Triumphant. These are great palate cleansers, great books that are pretty fast-paced, and I do want to conclude this series, and I have just two left, so I'm putting Conan the Triumphant in the TBR for this quarter. And then two works of nonfiction. The first is Counterpoint, which is Of Bach and Mourning. It's by Philip Kennicott, and it's a memoir about the author, I think, dealing with a long-term illness of one of his parents, and the way that he copes, I think, is discovering the work of Bach and teaching himself how to play some of these works. So I love the musical tie-in. I'm very much curious about this book. And the other work of nonfiction, which is in the definite for this quarter, is Crime Beat by Michael Connelly. Yeah, you heard that right. Michael Connelly, nonfiction. Connelly is one of my favorite authors, and I've read all of his works of crime fiction. But he wrote a story about how he was embedded, I think, as a reporter initially, and then just as a novelist, with different cops along the way, just to learn about the job. And I think it probably added a lot of the gritty realism that he has in his stories. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. Now, into the 5 probablys. The first one is another Lehane reread, and this is the audiobook that I'll be listening to next, and it's Darkness Take My Hand by Dennis Lehane. This is his second book, and his second book in the Kenzie and Gennaro crime novels. I read these totally out of order when I originally read them, so it will be fun to read them actually in order. And for these Kenzie and Gennaro novels, I'm probably going to do them all as audio, because I think that's a great way to reread, and I'm looking forward to doing that one. That will be my next audiobook. My next short story collection is Love and War, and this is volume 3 in the Dragonlance Tales. I almost said Chronicles. The first collection was very strong. The second collection, not so much. So we'll see how Love and War works for me. Most of the time when I read short story collections like this, I read one between each novel as kind of a palate cleanser. So this will be started in July, probably finish sometime in August or September. Another one that is in the maybe category is the next big book series that I want to tackle after I finish the Broken Empire trilogy, and this is the Serpent Or Saga of Raymond E. Feist, and the first book is called Shadow of a Dark Queen. So I do look forward to reading this. This will probably be September is probably when I'll get to this, assuming this probably comes through. That's a lot of probablys, but I'm pretty certain that I will read and start this book series. I just did a cut because 4 times in a row I could not say Michael R. Schultheis. Michael, the L and the R is hard to say, but I want to read his book, The Altar of My Fate. This is the first book in his Rostival saga. I did read the first book of his new space opera series last year and thoroughly enjoyed it, so I am looking forward to reading this. So this is a strong probably this quarter. And then the last one, been talking about perhaps trying again. This was my big DNF last year, and this is Memories of Ice by Steven Erikson, the third book in the huge Malazan Book of the Fallen. And, well, I can see 3 outcomes from this. I DNF'd this back in May. I'll put the video there of where I did that. I was doing a reading vlog of this series. I think reading Malazan on a schedule was a bad idea. And I tried to read this in a very, very busy month for me, and I just didn't have the mental capacity to read something this dense. So hopefully I'm not back in work when I'll have started this. I'll still be off for the summer, and this is going to be something late July that I read. There's 3 possible outcomes. 1, I might DNF again. 2, I may finish it and be right back on board and excited to read House of Chains. Or maybe I'll read it and it'll confirm that maybe Malazan isn't the book series for me. I can see any of those things being a likely outcome to this, but I am looking forward to trying again because I was told that I stopped right before this book started to get really good. So hopefully I'll read more than the 600 pages that I read of this, and I will like this series. So as for my 5 maybes, I don't even show you those because I have no idea whether I'll get to these or not. The first is Conan the Victorious by by Robert Jordan, the other guy who wrote Conan. I suspect that if I have just one of these left, I'll want to pick it up and just kind of finish that series. The second on the maybe list is Mountain in the Sea by Ray Naylor. This is a work of science fiction that sounds very intriguing to me. Third one on the maybe list is House of Open Wounds by Adrian Tchaikovsky. I love The City of Last Chances, and this is a quasi-sequel to that, so I'm looking forward to that. The next two are actually just kind of some dangling book series that are just going to be read periodically. A Snake Lies Waiting by Jin Yong. This is the third book in the Legends of the Condor Heroes, so I may get to that. And I may get to Firefly Carnival by Uma McCormack, which is the latest of the Firefly novels. So we shall see. But hey, that's my summer reading plans. I hope that some of these are something that you hope to hear me talk about, because I look forward to reading them. I'd love to hear what you're most looking forward to reading in the summer. Go ahead and put that in the comments below. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. You can also find me on Twitter, Goodreads, and the Fireside Discord. I'd love to interact with you there. As always, thank you for watching. Until next time, goodbye.